Welcome to Leading for Wellness. I'm Liesl Bernard, CEO of Cologne Executive Search and Leading for Wellness events. Each week, we dive into the journeys of visionary wellness entrepreneurs, uncovering their secrets to success. Get ready for insightful conversations that will inspire you to elevate your business and prioritize your well-being. Let's dive in. I am so excited about our conversation today. I have Rafea Naffa with me. He has a PhD in biochemistry, and he's currently the scientific director for AIDP, one of the world's largest branded ingredient distributors, as well as he is also the director of R&D for 3Tech, a company that's focused on distributing Magteen, a magnesium product, to the world. I'm very excited about our conversation today, Rafa. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
I'd love you to tell the audience a little bit about your background, and then I'd like to get into magnesium and why it's so important for our bodies.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Liesl. So a bit about me. I did my undergrad in chemistry. I'm a chemist by training. Then I had really big passion to study science or chemistry mainly. So that's why I decided to do my master's, then my PhD. I went to New Zealand. I did my PhD on a protein/biochemistry. After that, basically, I got really engaged at early stage, doing this translation of very complex scientific, problems, topics into something really people can understand. And this is why I found my way more into nutraceutical or health supplement industry. Then, of course, across, the last 10 years, I worked as a scientist. Then I moved from a scientist to a senior scientist. Then I moved into another role as basically looking at specialized in ingredients in New Zealand. Then, of course, I have made this, big move with AIDP in US, which is one of the largest, dietary supplements in US, which really, I would say, made me sort of feeling more application to the science I know. And this is why here I'm talking about magnesium and Magteen.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a very busy guy. So, what makes magnesium so essential to our bodies?
Absolutely, absolutely. My pleasure to address this. As I told you, I have really big passion to science. So if your audience allow me just to a little bit dig deep into biochemistry, and I'm gonna start by talking about minerals in the body, generally speaking. Now, our body does really requires minerals. What does minerals means? Those minerals that people know everyday life: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc, and copper, and many others. Those minerals actually they are essential for our body for two reasons. One reason is our body cannot basically retain large amounts of those minerals. What does it mean? Basically, we need to consume those minerals daily basis within the recommended daily dosages. And this is where it comes back to magnesium. The recommended daily dose for magnesium sits around 350 milligrams per day. However, magnesium actually in the body, it has really delicate balance with calcium. Let me delve deep a little bit into this delicate balance with calcium. Now, as we know, when we grew up, particularly when I was a child, I was really saturated with, having milk every day, cheeses, in order just to make our bones stronger, because there was a lot of ads about calcium.
Remember
You
that too, yeah. Everywhere there was ads about you got to drink your milk and eat your cheese and get magnesium called calcium in your body. But I never heard about magnesium when I was growing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is where magnesium I would consider is like it has been overlooked in the last 30 years. Now, the delicate balance between calcium and magnesium sits on how each one of those function in the body. Let me just put it this way. When you look at your body, generally speaking, those minerals, they do exist outside your cells and they do exist inside your cells. Now, to maintain a full functional body, you need to maintain the balance of those concentrations. Talking about magnesium and calcium concentration outside the cells way higher than the calcium the concentration of the calcium inside cells. And this was built for a reason, actually, Lisa, because most of the signaling you see that triggers your cell to function, actually it's the sudden flow of the calcium mineral from outside your cells to inside your cells. So the magnesium just rushes from outside to inside to initiate those physiological basically processes. For example, your muscle contraction. Your muscle contraction, it's due to the sudden and high flow of calcium going suddenly into your muscles and doing the contraction. The same with moving the signals between the brain neurons. So it's all about movement, this calcium. However, calcium, if you think about it, likes partying. I would consider calcium as like an animal party, like to have, signaling, firing, lights up stuff, and just making everything active. However, you cannot keep your body active all the times, correct? Think about it. So you need something to balance out the impact of the calcium. This is where you have magnesium. Listen, magnesium inside the cells, the concentration of the magnesium, it's way more than the concentration of the calcium. So magnesium inside the cells ensures actually controlling the calcium flux. So there's a delicate balance between calcium and magnesium. And as we said at the beginning, we've been consuming calcium in large quantities. So basically, and overlooked completely magnesium. So this basically, messed up with this balance in our bodies as a
Yeah.
start.
That's fascinating. I never knew that. But what I do know is that the availability of magnesium in our food is almost completely gone, right? With the poor farming practices that most countries have had over the last decades, the content of magnesium in food is pretty low. So magnesium supplementation is really, really important for us, right?
Absolutely. And this is really good comment you touch on that, which is we call it in our, in our science is bioavailability of the magnesium. Now, when you talk about the magnesium, the available magnesium in our food mainly, it just comes mainly from leafy greens and, raw nuts like almonds, which is I like. Now, however, studies have shown over 90 years the amount of those minerals, mainly magnesium, in our food, leafy greens and nuts, declined. So now we are consuming the same amount of food, but we are getting less magnesium from our food. This is one aspect, and this actually has the complications on the magnesium status in our body. The other one is the bioavailability, because when you consume the food, listen now, your body should be able to break it down and utilize the food. What does mean utilization? In order to be able to absorb the nutrients, the right nutrients from this food into your blood, into your plasma, into your circulation. And this is what we call it bioavailability, which is the movement of those nutrients in your gut into your blood. However, when you look at the magnesium, generally speaking, and those magnesium supplements around us, there's a large number of magnesium forms that we see every day. And this is why my advice to the people hearing us, please, if you're going to buy a health supplement, ensure that you read about the magnesium form. Let me give them some tricks. The first one is ask yourself one question. What form of magnesium I'm taking in my dietary supplement? Now, the reason is this question is very important because magnesium, the one we consume, it always comes with another half, another part, another component, which we call it negative ions. Because magnesium itself, it's a positive ions, which has a positive charge, and this bounds to something negative. And this what makes it actually soluble, what makes our body be able to utilize it and use it. So asking yourself, what would be the negative part of my magnesium supplement will really address many of your concerns. For example, if you've got magnesium oxide, This one of the magnesium forms, which is known to have the lowest, almost the lowest bioavailability in our body. What does it mean, lowest bioavailability? Now, for example, for magnesium oxide, it has only 5% bioavailability, which means, if I put it in the numbers, if you consume 1 gram of magnesium oxide, your body can only utilize and absorb 5% of that, which is basically out of the 1 gram, which is 1,000 milligrams, you have less than 50 milligrams that your body, or even less, 25 milligrams that your body absorb and utilize. Other forms like magnesium L-threonate or MAGTine, this has really a super bioavailability, more than 60%, which means if you're going to consume 1 gram of that, which means you will be literally having more than half a gram been absorbed into your blood, which gives you a really high bioavailability. So this is a balance between the intake from food and the bioavailability in your body and utilization.
That is fascinating because I think, most consumers go into Costco or another vitamin shop and they look at the vitamin shelf and they're like, there's magnesium, and you probably pick the cheapest one or the one that you think is, sounds the best. But there's so many different forms of magnesium and they all have different, uses in the body as well, right? I know magnesium oxide is more for constipation and, you know, a lot of people use it for that, but the other forms of magnesium too have different functions within the body. So it's fascinating to understand that it's the negative ion connected with magnesium that really is the key component to make it bioavailable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Give you more examples if you allow me. Now, when you talk about the other forms of magnesium, the negative ions, it will dictate in the body how your magnesium is going to be transported, been utilized, and been used. And this is really what makes MAGTine unique in that sense, because MAGTine has the L-threonate as the negative ions, which is scientifically proven that can facilitate actually the delivery of the magnesium from outside your cells, from the blood, inside your cells, particularly your brain neurons, your brain cells, which can give you those structural changes, which will be reflected on the functional changes. When I say structural changes, basically is going to drive, basically, for example, the communication between you and your brain neurons in order just to make them basically sharper, better, less noise, which basically makes you to be more focused, more brain energy, and makes you basically having less brain fog, for example.
That's fascinating. So if you don't get L-threonate, magnesium L-threonate in your body, you can't really absorb magnesium into your brain. And I think most people don't understand how important it is to actually get magnesium all the way to your brain, not just to other parts of your body. So I'd love you to tell me more about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is really good. Now, if you look at the magnesium, as I said at the beginning, your body cannot make magnesium, right? So you need to have this daily intake of magnesium, which sits around 350 milligrams per day. But the trick is how we're going to utilize magnesium in the body, because magnesium is a mineral that involved in, I would say, more than 300 processes in your body, because magnesium just helps your enzymes to function. And for those people hearing us, enzymes, they are a specialized proteins that the body makes them to make your body function quicker and more efficient. Quicker and more efficient. What does it mean? When you consume your food, you need to break down your food into what? Energy, correct? This is what we have our food daily, right? In order to produce energy and building up our bodies. Now, to break down your energy, you need those specialized proteins. They call them enzymes. However, those enzymes require minerals and require magnesium to function properly. So to produce even energy, in the body, magnesium is needed. To do even the muscle contraction, as I said, there should be a balance between your calcium and magnesium. If you have too much calcium, as I said, you might get muscle cramps. Now, getting into these communication between your neuron cells, as I said at the beginning, calcium drives your flux, your current in your neurons or between the cells. Magnesium basically control it, makes you to relax, makes you basically not having, sometimes you feel your head, it's full of stuff, even if you are sitting doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes yeah. This is because you have an extra signaling firing. The calcium, the party animal I mentioned, is just still active and doing things in your brain. So you need magnesium to calm this down. So this is where magnesium actually sits very important for our basically health. But again, as we said, it has been overlooked in the last 30 years. And this is where, listen, this is an information you needed your audience to hear. The recent study by the Lancet, they have shown 1 out of 3, the global population, they are not taking enough magnesium daily from the food. So they have basically consuming less magnesium. And guess what? Over time, that's gonna basically causes basically a decline in your body magnesium status, particularly your brain. And this is what I call it myself, the silent magnesium crisis, I would call it.
Yeah, I can understand that after what you just said. So what are the symptoms of low magnesium? If someone had to say, "Well, I don't know if I'm magnesium deficient. I feel okay." Maybe you don't even realize that you don't feel okay, but you're just used to being magnesium deficient. But what are sort of the five signs of being magnesium deficient?
This is really good. The symptoms mainly, I'll start with energy. If you are having a really good food or diet, daily diet, with backed with vitamins, and you think backed with calories, which is meeting your daily calories, and you still feel tired, I think this may be an indication that, hey, your body telling you, hey, wake up. I think your body needs magnesium, because as I said, to convert your food into energy, you need magnesium. Sometimes you get this kind of out of focus. You feel out of focus sometimes, as I said. Although basically you're fine, you're just feeling healthy, but you're just struggling with focusing in your brain. This may be your body telling you, hey, you have low magnesium. Sometimes you have muscle cramps, right? Although you drink milk, you drink really food with high source of calcium, and you have no issue, and you are again so healthy. This may be an indication as well. You feel
Balance
basically.
between magnesium and calcium, right?
Absolutely. The balance between magnesium and calcium. Sometimes actually mood swings might tell you. Most importantly, sleep. Because listen, I'm always basically talking to the people about the science. We are spending 1/3 of our life sleeping. So think about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you will be living for 100 years, you will be sleeping for 30 years. And during this sleep stages, in order basically, tidy up your brain neurons, you go through those sleep stages. And each stage need magnesium. So if you are struggling, you feel like, you know what, I sleep 10 hours, but I feel like I'm not having enough quality sleep. You need magnesium. And this is where one of the studies in 2024 done on Mactin, taking Mactin for 3 weeks, it has shown it makes you sleep better, not sleep longer. Because as I said, people, they might be sleeping longer.
I can definitely tell. I've been taking it very consistently now for a number of weeks, and my sleep has never been as good as it's now. And I don't think it's a coincidence, but I definitely think it has made a huge difference, to my sleep quality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, maybe your audience asking, "Oh, what does it do with your sleep? What does it do? Why it helps your sleep?" I'm gonna getting back touching on the MAC10 and the discovery, if you allow me, because this is very important for audience to understand when we talk about MAC10, why we are really proud and just talking about those amazing claims. MAC10 actually, it's only around 15 years old. It's a very young magnesium form. It's been created in 2018 at Stanford and MIT University by Dr. Liu. Dr. Liu, he's a Professor Liu. He was trying to understand how our brains work. That's it. In the lab, in the petri dishes, believe it or not. He has those tiny brain neurons, been extracted and put them in those tiny dishes. And he has developed cool techniques in order to understand how those neurons talk to each other. So what he did, he created a special green dye. Listen. This green dye was the key, because this dye is stained. It's a green. So what he did with this technology, if he excites or triggers the brain neurons, the petri dish, his dish turns more into green color. It's so simple. It sounds simple, but it's very complicated because you need to measure it in a very special way. However, one day he was studying those communication between the cells, and he come across magnesium. He saw that magnesium waking up those cells, make them really very excited and getting this green color. And this is what he asked himself, oh, this sounds like magnesium. It just, does something to those neuron cells. And this is where basically he started thinking, what would be the best magnesium form that he can feed those brain neuron cells in order to make them happy, to make them basically healthy. And this is why he created MAC10, which is magnesium L-threonate. And he published a very high impact paper in Science. We call it high impact in 2010. And it has been cited more than 600 times. So this piece of work, which created MAC10, it's very well recognized globally about the importance of MAC10 and the creation of MAC10.
That is absolutely fascinating. And I think especially in the age that we're in right now with Alzheimer's and dementia and so forth, how does that interplay with brain health? How does magnesium play into keeping the brain healthy, with those types of diseases that we're starting to see more of?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, as I said, when Professor Low has created the MAC10, his passion was to address those, problems with the neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, ADHD, and he's still actively working to increase the understanding and how we can use MAC10 to address those neurodegenerative diseases. However, the MAC10 we know that been sold by AIDB and Theoretic is a health supplement. It does not treat or prevent any disease, but guess what? It can basically support you to stay healthy, to stay focused. Because when you look at the MAC10, one of the things we have done in the last 12 years in order to show the amazing benefits of MAC10 for brain, we have done more than 4 human clinical studies on population, not diseased population, is like sort of unhealthy population, but they have basically, reported some, dissatisfaction with the sleep or dissatisfaction with focus or having some anxiety or mood, which is, I understand, maybe half of our audience now, they can basically reflect and they say, oh, this is me. This is me. So remember, if this is you, MAC10 can give you the solution, because what we have measured during our human clinical studies, it significantly supported your cognitive performance, which is any executive function you use your brain with: memory, learning, concentration, focus, sleep. Even it significantly improved the sleep quality as well.
That's amazing. How does it interact with hormones? I would imagine that magnesium also has a pretty significant impact on hormones. And some of those symptoms that you mentioned are symptoms that we see in women going through menopause, and I'm sure men have similar symptoms, maybe not as well reported, but I would love to hear how magnesium plays into the hormone balance.
Absolutely. Now, when you talk about hormones, and I'm sure people know that hormone is one of the most complex topic in biochemistry, because individual differences, they can dictate the hormonal balance in each one of us. However, generally speaking, hormones, they are small molecules that the body secretes or produce in a response to any changes in your body. Okay. Now, when I said at the very beginning about, the magnesium crisis and how 1 out of 3, as I said, they are not taking enough daily magnesium, your body will respond to that, right? Your body will say, hey, I don't have enough magnesium. I have issues of producing energy. I have issues basically in my muscle contraction. I have issues in controlling my even sugar levels. I have issues particularly communicating my brain neurons. And this is your body basically in order to compensate for those, sort of unbalance changes in your body, start secreting those hormones in order just to overcome it. Now, having actually magnesium from MAC10 and other sources, it will restore the balance in your body. As I said at the beginning, magnesium is involved in more than 300 processes, which means you restore your balance, restore your homeostasis, and you bring all your body stasis down. So this will help to control the hormone in your body. Your
And
body feels
anxiety too,
basically, I
right?
agree with it. Yeah.
It sounds like definitely it's gonna level out anxiety in bodies too. That's incredible. Um, I'd love to talk to you more about just the research that's going on around all of this and how, people can access it. Is there papers that they can read if people are more interested in knowing more about it? Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I'll give some the audience snips of some of the human clinic studies. And of course, if they need more, they can visit the website, MAC10 website, or they can contact us directly. Now, the first human clinical study we did was in 2016. It had basically a population more than 50 people that basically showing dissatisfaction of some cognitive executive health, and they were more likely in the older population. So they were taking MAC10 daily, around 2 grams, 2 grams of MAC10 daily over 12 weeks. Then what we did, we asked them to do a very recognized, globally recognized test, which measures the brain executive function at the beginning of the study and at the end of the study. And at the same time, because this was a randomized placebo trial, which means we had 2 groups. One group took the MAC10, which is 2 grams, and the other group of people, they took only placebo. And the placebo, which means it's something really we give them which does not have the MAC10. Then we ask them to redo the same test at the end of the study. Actually, we asked them to do the test halfway, 6 weeks mark. Then they did the test again at 12 weeks. And guess what we found? Significantly, the group of the people that took the MAC10 significantly improved their total cognitive score, we call it, which tells you they can start memorizing things better, learning things faster, recalling basically some directions around them, and recognizing even the visuals better. And this is one of the study we did in 2016. Of course, after the study, we did another three more studies, which basically has given us or reinforce the same outcome, which is basically again placebo group with MAC10 taken 1 grams or 2 grams MAC10 per day for several weeks. And we did those assessments at the beginning and at the end. And of course, without telling you, uh, at the end of all those studies, There were significant improvement in the brain function, which includes, again, as I said, memory, learning, focus, mood, concentration. And we had another study, as I did mention, sleep. Significantly improve the sleep quality. Makes you sleep better, not longer, as I said, and give you more productivity, more energy during the day that allows you to do your, daily tasks, going to school, working, taking care of your kids, playing sport. And this is what makes in some of the studies, of Mactin.
That's really fascinating. So one thing is you have to take it daily, right? You can't say, well, I'm going to take a lot of it for a week and then I'm going to take a break for a month because I built up my reserve for magnesium. So it's not something that you can store in your body. You have to continually replenish the magnesium, content of your cells. And it's not something that you can just do for a while and go, okay, I'm good now. And, we can take a break. Is that right? Or, tell me more about that.
Absolutely. Listen, you've touched on something really important. I need, again, the audience hear this clearly. Now, the recommended daily intake of magnesium, elemental magnesium, is around 350 milligrams per day. This can go up or can go down based on your gender, based on your status. But exactly what you said, you need to stay basically getting the enough daily magnesium, 350 milligrams per day. However, there's a catch. If you keep taking magnesium in high quantities every day, you need to understand this puts stress on your kidney because the magnesium status in your body, in your plasma, is controlled by your kidney. How much you're peeing every day. So every time you pee more, you basically remove some of those minerals, including magnesium. This is where when you are stressed, sometimes you go more to the toilet, which means if you are stressed all the time, guess what? You are losing magnesium more. So Mactin, which makes it unique, the validated clinically dose of Mactin, it's 2 grams. And this only gives you 40% of the daily recommended dose, which is around 145 milligrams of elemental magnesium. What does this mean? We can ensure you that you take Mactin daily without putting too much stress on your kidney because you're having too much magnesium. Unlike other forms of magnesium, they could give you the 100% elemental magnesium amount that you need every day, which is they don't leave a room for you to get magnesium from your food. So this can put a pressure, physiological pressure in your body, particularly in your kidney. So taking this every day, yes, but you need to ensure you don't overdose your body with magnesium. And this won't happen with Mactin because Mactin, the 2 grams, gives you only 40% of the recommended daily dose.
Great. So there's other forms of magnesium. There's oxide, there's magnesium citrate, obviously there's magnesium L-threonate. Do you recommend people take a variety of different magnesiums to satisfy the magnesium requirements of your body? Or do you think you can take one form like L-threonate and, you have what you need? What do you recommend as a scientist, in that regard?
Absolutely, I can address that. Magnesium is magnesium. Like scientifically speaking, whether you get magnesium from Mactin or you get magnesium from magnesium oxide, you are getting the same magnesium. But the difference would be, as I said, the bioavailability and the dose of the magnesium you are getting. Like magnesium oxide, it has really poor bioavailability. So you need really take a really large quantity of magnesium oxide to get the right bioavailability, which is you cannot do that. You cannot just take, daily 10 grams or 20 grams of magnesium oxide, because exactly what you said, on the other side, you will start, exactly. It may cause basically gut discomfort and it can cause diarrhea. And this is so dangerous with those magnesium forms. So you need to make sure when you take the magnesium, exactly what you said, from a different form, you select on the best form that suits you, suits your need. And this is where, getting back to the magnesium forms, if you talk about magnesium citrate, magnesium malate, magnesium glycinate, they're really good source of magnesium, but they only work on the body status of magnesium. They can help the body to get enough magnesium for muscles, for the general health, but not for your brain. And this is where you need to consider MAC10, because MAC10 does two things. In our study, we have shown that MAC10, taking MAC10 daily, it can increase your magnesium, body magnesium status. So it's going to tick this box for you. Plus, it will basically deliver the magnesium into your brain uniquely, and it will effectively increase your brain magnesium. And this is where it's going to support your brain performance. So my advice to your audience, just pick the right magnesium that fits your daily routine.
Great. That's a great explanation, because it's really overwhelming and confusing, I think, for a lot of consumers when you go to a magnesium aisle in a nutrition store and there's just so many different forms. So this has been a fascinating discussion. Is there anything else you want to share? And I'd love to hear what you do. I know you're a very healthy guy and you have all the science, at your fingertips. So what do you do, and how much magnesium do you take? And if there's other sources and things that you do. I always like to get into a little bit of personal biohacking and what routines are. I'm always learning from people that I meet. So I'd love to hear what you do.
Absolutely. I can help you with that. As a scientist, I've been using my brain in the last 20 years, correct? So my brain makes me the scientist I am now, and the way I can explain those complex, science topics to your audience. So the brain, as I said, number one, you need basically a constant supply of energy precursors, which is basically everyone is taking it, which is from food, glucose and oxygen. Oxygen, of course, I used to actively do a lot of sports, running, but now still I keep my oxygen up by taking walks. If I feel sitting like this for 1-2 hours, I'll try basically stretch, have a walk 5-10 minutes in order to get basically your lung, open up your lung, and basically you just make your blood circulation moves and get those oxygen into your body and your brain. Food, of course, we're lucky where there's no lacking of food in order just to provide this source of glucose and carbohydrates. But the other thing is the minerals, which is the nutrients we need, minerals and vitamins. Now, minerals and vitamins, you need basically get the right source for them, and you need basically understand your body. This is very important, actually. Biohacking, doesn't apply for, like, there's no one size fits all, basically. So you need to understand your body. Me, as a scientist, I know my body has basically needs for very demanding for my brain. So what I do, magnesium is something really I maintain every day with calcium, actually. Of course, there's no lacking of milk. I'm a milk drinker, milk and cheese eater, particularly in New Zealand. We eat a lot of crackers and cheese all day long. Exactly. So now getting to the magnesium is tricky part, because for me, I'm lucky I'm working with MAC10 company. So I have basically MAC10 in my household all the time. But on the top of that, I try to consume leafy greens and raw nuts, almonds. I like raw almonds because it just gives you a really good dose of magnesium. If I feel tired, remember, if you feel out of focus, if you feel mood swings, you cannot sleep well, I can tell you from now, you need to consider basically a magnesium supplement, and of course MAC10, in order just to effectively increases the magnesium brain. This is basically my general advice for the people. And please, next time when you go to the magnesium aisle, read about the negative ion. What would be the negative ion, and what are the other failures you have in order just to make the supplement? And this is what makes us really unique within the MAC10 team.
Fantastic. I wish our medical system will get to a point where we all get tested. Whenever you go for a blood test, you get tested for your mineral levels and especially magnesium. I think, the more we learn about this, we realize how important it is and how we need to stay on top of making sure we're all well mineralized. Thank you so much for your time. It was a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to having you back again. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into Leading for Wellness. This podcast is powered by Leading for Wellness CEO and Investor Events and Kalon Executive Search. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your favorite social media platform. And to learn more about our services, visit leadingforwellness.com or kalonsearch.com and follow us on Instagram as well.